The House Energy Communications and Technology Committee will come to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Chair Scott,
Present.
Representatives Andrews,
Here.
Coleman,
Here, Zoom.
Witsit, Neely,
Here.
Burns,
Here.
Churches,
Present.
Hill,
Here.
McDonald,
Present.
McFall,
Here.
Wenzel,
Here.
Outman,
Here.
Aragona,
Here.
Begol,
Here.
Green,
Here.
Preston,
Here.
Schmaltz.
Here.
Madam Clerk, you have 16 members, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, we need a motion to adopt the minutes from the June 28th, 2023 meeting. Representative McDonald makes that motion. Okay. All right. All right. Today we will hear a presentation from Mr. Melvin Nickerson, Director of Government Affairs for Central Region for NRG Energy. Mr. Nickerson, can you please come forward to the table, and please make sure you turn on your mic for us. And you may proceed. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me, Chair. Good morning to the Chair and to the esteemed members of the committee. Again, my name is Melville Nickerson. I am the Director of Government Affairs for NRG. We are a publicly traded national energy company, Fortune 500. We specialize in generating electricity on the open wholesale market as independent power producers. And we also sell electricity and natural gas to end users, commercial, industrial, and residential. I'll give you just a little bit of background on who I am. I've told you a little bit about my company. I am an attorney. I have been in the energy industry for over 20 years. I started out litigating cases with the Citizens Utility Board on behalf of residential consumers in Chicago, Illinois. I have also been fortunate enough to serve as the Deputy Director of the state's Energy Office in Illinois under former Governor Quinn, where I oversaw $85 million in grant programs to encourage the development of energy efficiency, demand response, renewable energy, so on and so forth. I come before you today first and foremost to thank you for the opportunity to discuss with you the benefits of competitive markets. It is something that is an untapped resource for the state of Michigan and something that can certainly help to advance renewable energy and empower consumers to have choice and to manage their electricity bills in a more productive and innovative manner. I want to highlight very clearly for the group that I'd like to discuss competitive energy markets in the context of understanding how competitive markets are supposed to work. That's a very important concept for members of the committee to understand. Michigan's current
Mr. Nickerson, can I just interrupt you? If you have a PowerPoint, if you want to slide down there to navigate through it, or do you have someone else here that can do that?
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Brown, thank you for joining us.
So we're still on the first slide before we get into the presentation. I do want to highlight that Michigan's current law when it comes to consumer choice stifles innovation and the deployment of renewable energy and economic development. Under the current law, only 10% of customers can shop for competitive energy. And that really, quite honestly, is just restricted to the commercial and industrial sector. Imagine if your only option for buying groceries was at Walmart. Nothing wrong with Walmart, but perhaps you might want to go to a Target or to a different specialty meat market. It's all about allowing consumers choice. Under the current law, 90% of Michiganders are captive customers to the utilities. So regardless of customer service or the desire for new and innovative products, 90%, a monopoly by the utilities, are captive to the utilities, regardless of what services the utilities offer or how the utilities perform the services provided. No option to leave. They are a captive audience. I want to give you just one final illustration before I move into my presentation. All of us are blessed and fortunate to have a mobile phone. And in fact, we are so reliant on our mobile phones that I would dare say that if we ran out of the house in the morning without our mobile phones, even running late, we would run back inside and grab our mobile phone. This is a good illustration because in the early 1980s, the federal government decided, hey, Ma Bell, we're going to break up your monopoly. You have a stranglehold on consumers. There is not innovation being derived from your business models, and consumers do not have choice. So we stand here benefiting from the virtues of competitive markets. Under the old Ma Bell system, we had landline phones and we had long distance charges. Imagine now today, I can use my phone to call Europe and it's the same minutes. There are no long distance charges. In addition to that, the innovation that free markets have brought allow us to do video conferencing, allow us to use our phone as cameras, and give us access to over thousands of different applications that we can use, whether we're counting our steps during the day or we're doing banking online through our phone. That is the innovation that is inherent in a competitive marketplace. And my last statement before we move to the first slide is the telecommunications market is no different than the electricity market. It is designed to be a competitive marketplace with a diverse set of actors that participate to fulfill customer desire, innovation, demand, and economic development. Let's go to the second slide. So again, quickly, NRG is the parent company of a wide variety of different companies, all focused around providing innovation in the energy market and customer service. One of the items I'll point out quickly to you is our recently acquired company, Vivint. Vivint is what we like to deem a smart home company. The initial product that is being offered to the customer our home security system, but once we have a relationship with the customer, we are then expanding that relationship to include energy management devices, so smart thermostats and things of that nature. So imagine if your teenage child is leaving the house for the day, you're on vacation, it's a hot summer day, and you notice that the air conditioner is on full blast, and yet you're 200 miles away. You can remotely turn down your thermostat and control your energy needs in that way. We also offer additional innovative services that allow you to remotely close your garage door if you are away from home and you forgot sitting in the office and realize, oh no, I left the garage door open. But these are the types of innovations that come to consumers when there is a competitive marketplace. Why don't we move to slide 3? I wanted to highlight to you how the electric transmission grid works. So at the very left-hand side, or depending on which side of the slide you're looking at, you see what is deemed as a traditional power plant. That's where the electricity is generated. And in most markets, companies like mine compete to be able to sell electricity to end users. In this equation, we have to operate very efficiently. We have to sell our product on an open marketplace. We compete. And that competition helps to drive down cost and helps us to be efficient. Under the current model in Michigan, the utilities own generation. They're one of the only games in town, and so there is no incentive for them to be efficient with their operations. They have a captive ratepayer. So whatever they essentially decide that will be approved by the Michigan Public Service Commission, that is the rate of the return that they're going to get for running that power plant. But imagine if there was competition. competition inherently works to drive down costs. The next phase of we're going to keep it on this slide, the next phase of the electric transmission grid that I want to point out is you have two types of transmission. You see the larger transmission system called high voltage transmission. These are the metal structures that we see as we drive down interstate highways. Traditionally, the utilities own this infrastructure, although there are independent companies like one of our competitors that actually develops the high voltage transmission. So you generate the electricity, high voltage transmission travels over electrical lines for miles and miles and miles. And then the next phase is to step it down to low voltage transmission, the electric poles that we see in our neighborhood. And then that allows the energy to feed into our homes and our businesses and our various industries. Again, in most states, the utilities own the transmission system. I use Illinois as an example. We are a deregulated state. That's jargon for that we have a competitive energy market. The utilities focus on ensuring that the transmission system, high voltage lines and low voltage lines, perform at optimal levels. They have, in Illinois, we have an extremely successful transmission system. We have low outages. We have the benefit of smart meters, which help the utilities locate where the outages are quickly and address those outages in a quick manner. So the breakup of the monopoly in Illinois has been a multifaceted benefit to the residents of Illinois. And one of the things that, again, I will highlight, you can do a Google search, you're not going to come up with many instances of consistent nor prolonged outages in the state of Illinois because the utilities focus on maintaining the transmission lines. We'll go to the next slide, slide 4. So this map of the United States is a very critical piece of the puzzle for the committee to understand. The United States is broken up into regional transmission systems. These regional transmission systems are operated by not-for-profit entities such as MISO, the Mid-Continent System Operator, which is the majority of Michigan, or PJM, which Pennsylvania, Maryland, New Jersey, they operate the same way. They are a entity that is under federal jurisdiction, and yet they oversee a regional marketplace of independent power producers like my companies and others to ensure that the electric markets that exist in the United States run efficiently and that there is sufficient power at all times to be delivered to end users. So I point this out because one of the impediments currently in place in Michigan is that you must buy a certain amount of electricity in state in order to serve the 10%, that small little slice of the pie that companies like mine and competitors get to provide to commercial and industrial consumers. That is an artificial obstruction to serving customers and to free markets. We might have a customer on contract to provide electricity for a year, yet under Michigan's law, we have to fulfill that customer's capacity need for 4 years and buy a certain percentage of that in state. Let me break that down quickly. Capacity is just a fancy word for enough electricity to provide to the customer 24/7. And we can provide that service because, as this map points out, Michigan is not an island. You can export energy into the marketplace, regional. You can import energy, regional, into the marketplace. And that's what happens in the majority of states in these various regional transmission systems. Let's go to slide 5. On slide 5, I just want to point out again to empower the committee. There are 3 primary energy markets that function across the United States. There is the, again, capacity market. That is just a tool or a resource to ensure that you have sufficient electricity to serve customer demand and need 24/7, 365. There is the day-ahead energy market, which allows individuals in the marketplace to lock in a price a day before marketplaces opens, and then they're subject to the bell curve of the market. So low demand in the beginning of the day, high demand in the middle of the day. You can buy energy the day ahead, lock in a price that is more competitive than being subject to the volatility of the open market. There is also a third energy market called the ancillary market. Just jargon again. What that simply means is you need to have electricity on the grid at all times to ensure that the grid is operating at 60 gigahertz. That's how all of our appliances run, charging our cell phones, running our refrigerators, our PCs, et cetera. In the middle, you have competitive suppliers like my company and others that are providing electricity that we buy from independent power producers, and then we're selling that power to end users. That's a critical component that is necessary to drive innovation. One of the things that I'll highlight for you quickly, in Texas, which is a fully competitive marketplace, we have an app that allows us both by email and via text message to interact with our customer. Imagine getting a text message that says, hey, Mrs. Jane Doe, we are your electricity provider. We would like you to know we have been watching your electricity consumption during this hot summer week. We have noticed that you are using a above average amount of electricity. Here are ways, well, here is what your projected bill will be at the end of the month if you continue on this usage pattern, and here are ways that you can actively work to reduce your electricity bill. So those are just some of the innovative services that we're able to provide to our customers to satisfy their energy management needs through a competitive marketplace. An additional item that I'll highlight is in a competitive marketplace, we have a corporate customer, Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo wanted to be supplied with solar energy at over 500 of their branch offices in Texas. So we're not a developer or owner of utility, but we're sophisticated market participants. We find projects in the marketplace, solar development, that are at the early stages. We lock in prices. We can bundle that energy savings and pass it along to our customers that seek those type of services. Again, it's what the customer wants. We're able to supply and drive innovation in a competitive marketplace. And then, of course, again, at the end of this all is the consumer. What does the consumer want? The consumer typically wants excellent customer service, and in a competitive market, just like your cell phone provider, if Verizon provides me poor customer service, then I say, you know what? Later for Verizon, I'm going to go to T-Mobile, or I'm going to go to AT&T. Maybe it's not poor customer service. Maybe I'm looking for a particular innovative feature. Maybe I want to upgrade my phone. I can change suppliers to get the latest and the greatest gadget. I can also change my supplier to find a program that fits my needs. Maybe it's, hey, I want free nights and weekends with my phone plan. These are the type of innovative services that we also offer in the marketplace to benefit consumer need. Why don't we go to slide 6? Slide 6 is an historical timeline of how legislation in Michigan has evolved. Back in 2001, it was the good pleasure and wisdom of the General Assembly to pass Public Act 141. that enacted a marketplace where consumers could choose who they wanted to purchase their electricity from. In 2009, unfortunately, that choice was restricted. So as opposed to having full competitive choice, you have a very small sector of the market, 10%, that is competitive. And you have a 90% monopoly that regardless of what customers want, regardless of what competitive market prices might be, regardless of customer service and performance, I'm stuck. I'm a captive consumer. That is an archaic function, and that's not the way markets were designed to work. I want to also point out that in 2009, there was a provision of the law which is currently being interpreted by the Michigan Public Service Commission that says, again, for no, it is an impediment to the marketplace to require that when we provide electricity to this very small sliver of the competitive marketplace, that we have to purchase 4 years of in-state capacity when the marketplace is regional and there are other ways to provide that capacity at more competitive prices to serve our customer need and align better with the length of the customer service contract. Whether it's 1 year or 4 years, we can align the capacity to meet that customer need. Finally, I want to point out that the Michigan Public Service Commission did highlight last year that there are over 6,000 businesses and school districts in the state of Michigan that are on a waiting list to be added to the 10% that can take customer choice. So let me break that down for you just a little more simply put. There is a backlog of customers that are demanding the opportunity to be able to choose who their supplier is and what services they would like to get from that supplier. And they can't exercise that option under current Michigan law until a company decides we're closing and now we're freeing up space under that 10% cap, or the customer says, I'm going to go and join a different utility or municipality for their service. We are fortunate in the United States of America to have a robust, free, and competitive market. It is not perfect, but it certainly drives innovation in all of the things that we get to enjoy on a day-to-day basis. So again, competitive markets do drive innovation, economic development, and meet consumer choice. I'll just close with we'll go to slide 7. Just some closing highlights that I'd like to share with you. We are, again, in a competitive market, in a desire to be innovative and to serve our customers. We are pioneering products like pairing natural gas with carbon offsets. For example, currently the Securities and Exchange Commission is working to finalize rules that will require all publicly traded companies to disclose what their carbon footprint is. And so with the onset of that regulation looking to be enacted sometime later this year or early next, many publicly traded companies are looking for tools to help them mitigate their carbon footprint. And this is one of the ways that they can do so. Another way is by being able to subscribe to the purchase of renewable energy, whether it's through a utility scale solar project or through it's a community solar project. Not everybody is going to be able to afford to put rooftop solar on their home. Not every home or business is going to be configured to allow for standalone community solar or rooftop community solar. But let the marketplace develop in the state of Michigan utility scale solar, community scale solar, and be able to deliver that renewable energy to the end users who are demanding that type of service. And again, it's all about customer demand, it's all about innovation, and it's all about developing and spurring a marketplace for economic development. So I will just close by saying I would ask with the utmost respect and urgency that the committee strongly consider and move to enact changes to Michigan's law that would open up the market, the electric market, to competition, and to do away with artificial barriers such as the in-state capacity requirement that, again, are an impediment to serving consumers. Thank you very much for the time and the opportunity to appear before this committee.
Thank you very much for that very informative presentation. I'm going to open it up to questions. Representative Altman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Melville, thank you for being here again. You seem to have a lot of experience with Illinois energy policy, so I'm going to ask you some questions specific to Illinois energy market. Just pull up my notes here. So is Illinois totally a competitive energy market? Is there any sort of cap in terms of consumer choice?
So Illinois is a fully competitive energy market, yes.
And what are the average electricity rates in Illinois?
The average electricity rates in Illinois will vary over time. But for example, based on a question that you asked last time, on a comparison between Illinois and Michigan, we were able to pull together a illustrative comparison looking at a period of time between 2001 and 2022. So in the state of Michigan, residential customers on average over that period of time paid 12.8 cents a kilowatt hour, whereas in Illinois they paid 11.2 cents a kilowatt. In the commercial sector in Michigan, they paid 9.9 cents a kilowatt hour, and in Illinois they paid 8.7 cents a kilowatt hour. The industrial users in Michigan paid 6.7 on average, and in Michigan they paid, in Illinois they paid 6.2. So the bottom line is the difference over the spread of time would be 12% difference for residential, 12.5 for commercial, and 6.9 for industrial. I would say, as I was mentioning before, the price per kilowatt hour is not the full story. It is certainly a driver, and the price per kilowatt hour is going to be subject to geopolitical events like Ukraine-Russia conflict, as well as natural disasters like Hurricane Katrina. The key driver of competitive markets is innovation, are the types of services that companies like ours are constantly vying to provide to consumers, such as demand response, helping commercial and industrial consumers benefit from resources and programs that say, hey, look, during a peak demand period, if you can reduce your load, we can pay you for doing that because the marketplace values that reduction in energy. Another one quickly that I can point to.
Well, can I just interject really quickly?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Because I understand it's not always an apples to apples comparison, but generally I do agree that competition does drive down costs, and so I wanted to see if the proof is in the pudding, particularly in the Illinois energy market. But you did make an interesting point in terms of innovation, which generally I agree. Competition ignites innovation and various things like that. What about in terms of reliability? Where does Illinois rank nationwide?
I don't have hard facts for you, but I would have to say my humble opinion would be Illinois ranks in the highest. We have a very robust grid system. The investment is there. The utilities focus solely on the transmission system, and they perform extremely well.
Okay. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Representative Schmaltz.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you. And thank you for being here. Appreciate your testimony. I was just curious, what is your rate of outages and what is the average of them lasting? How long are the outages?
Senator, excuse me, Representative, I apologize. I want to be clear when answering your question. If we are referring to the state of Illinois, the outages are less frequent and they are for a lower time duration when you compare back over a 10 or 20-year period. And the reason for that is the utilities, having solely to focus on transmission, came before the General Assembly and they asked for a particular rate of return, a more structured rate of return based on performance for deploying smart meters. The utilities promised the General Assembly that, well, they promised innovation, which they haven't delivered on, but they also promised a reduced number of outages if they would have these smart meters deployed. Because when they look on their system, they can quickly pinpoint where the outage is and they can quickly repair the outage.
Well, do you have specific numbers on?
I do not. It's not part of our core business model, but I will be happy to share information with you.
And what is your reimbursement for outages per day?
Again, that's not our core business. Representative, we are an electric generator. We sell in the wholesale market through our power plants, and then we supply energy. We're not a utility, so we're not responsible for the upkeep of the transmission system. But I will get responses to the two questions that you asked that pertain to the utilities in Illinois.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Representative Preston.
Thank you. I appreciate your testimony today. One of the questions that I have, if your thought is to expand or eliminate the 10% threshold, what's your impact? What's your vision of impact on rural America? A lot of cooperatives as well as the IOUs have long-term work plans, construction work plans on their infrastructure that lends to their pricing stability. If you propose to serve those loads, how many wheeling charges are going to occur to get those electrons to that endpoint consumer? And what loads are going to be targeted? Industrial, residential? Because typically when the 10% rule is invoked, it goes after a specific or a strategic industrial consumer. So how do you see this impacting rural America? Because I see nothing but price increases for rural America, especially the ones that have sparse populations where we're talking meters per mile, not hundreds of meters per mile.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Excuse me. So let me try and answer this maybe in two parts. So in Illinois, as an example, we have municipal utilities. They're not subject to competitive markets because the municipality owns the generation, the transmission, et cetera. So they have a captive customer that they need to keep in order to maintain their small system. We also don't, the co-ops operate as they do in any other state. They're independent, they have their members, and they act as such. But the rest of the state that the utility used to serve is completely competitive. And again, we have appropriate pricing, special pricing, depending on the end user. Whether it's an industrial user with a large load, well, the more volume you're buying, typically the lower your price is going to be. But again, there are also innovative services that we can provide, such as demand response.
Just to follow up, please. One of the aspects that I'm still struggling to understand is how do you deliver? You're going to obviously be using another utility's distribution infrastructure. There's going to be wheeling charges that are going to incur. I don't understand how that increases end consumers other than the industrial market, how that really positively impacts consumers at the end point. I mean, this seems like it goes more after the commercial industrial load than what it could ever help single-family homes.
That's a great question, Representative. Let me give you a response first by illustration. So the electric grid system is no different than our interstate highway system. Under the current model, let me just pick a retailer. You're getting delivery from Saks Fifth Avenue, right, for your very lovely sport coat. That's going to travel on an interstate highway system. Let's just pick a point, New York, Saks Fifth Avenue. They're going to load it onto a truck. They're going to move that truck across interstate highway system. They're going to pay a toll at some point to be on that system, and they're going to deliver you a very nice sport coat from Saks Fifth Avenue. Another individual who desires a different kind of jacket, less expensive, is going to call Amazon, based in New York. They're going to get on the interstate highway. They're going to pay a toll. They're going to deliver a sport coat to your neighbor that your neighbor likes for typically less money if that's what they desire. That's what they desire. And they're going to be able to get that. So that's an illustration that I'm saying quickly that the transmission system is interconnected, right? The utilities own the interstate highway. They own the transmission. People are still going to pay their transmission costs. That's a key element to understand. The utilities still have to maintain their transmission system, but you can put an electron on the grid or on the interstate highway, and it travels to the end user. And you can get either renewable energy, a blend of renewable energy. You can get a cost for electricity that's more competitive, as well as innovative services. And Representative, let me finish a thought because I think it's important to help crystallize this idea. The delivery of electricity is agnostic, right? It can come from multiple sources in multiple different geographical locations. The important thing is for electric vehicle charging station in your home, right now the utility's not obligated to offer you a special price, right? You want to charge at noon, you're going to pay a price they're going to charge you during the middle of the day. There's no incentive for you to charge during off-peak demand times, say from 7 to midnight. We're offering you a service like that. We're saying, hey, look, on our plan, if you charge between 7 and 4 a.m. in the morning, your price per kilowatt charge for your car is going to be below market, and you're going to save money by charging your car during that time period. Just that's the type of innovation that we can provide.
And I understand that. I guess my overall thought is just that the premise of using another utility's infrastructure to deliver your product and saying that you're going to be able to deliver it cheaper using their infrastructure, which will incur a wheeling charge, it's going to push the price up. Even with the advent of AMI, which are your smart meters, I just don't see it being feasible for anyone other than the industrial customer type. So,
Representative,
and especially egregious to the rural community. You mentioned municipalities, but you don't mention the IOUs that service rural America that have, again, meters per mile, very low ratios and a huge distribution infrastructure cost.
Yeah, Representative, I understand your concern and your hesitation and your skepticism, but Representative, I would also just encourage you, please don't lose sight of a telecommunication example. Apple doesn't own the 5G network, right? They don't. There are companies that own that transmission system, but Apple wants to sell you a phone and different services. Like I love having Apple Music on my phone. I love having audiobook on my phone. But these are things that I get from a different provider in the marketplace, and somebody else maintains the transmission system. Apple's phone works on somebody else's network. Galaxy's phone works on somebody else's network. It's the same premise. Please don't lose sight of that. This marketplace is meant to be competitive, and protecting archaic monopolies is not going to drive economic development and innovation and meet consumer demand in the state of Michigan, particularly when you have customers. Again, these are largely commercial and industrial because that's the only marketplace that's open. You got a backlog of over 6,000 businesses that are saying, please, we want the opportunity to manage our electricity costs.
Any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry. Chair recognizes Minority Vice Chair Wenzel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this summer, this committee, a lot of people on this committee, we've traveled around and talked about reliability and stability. So that's kind of what my question relates to. And I find it interesting that you cited Texas multiple times as a deregulated state. We've all been hearing about Texas and their heat waves and their winter storms. And I've looked up some data, and it sounds like that their prices for their residents spiked 800% during those times. We had a polar vortex here a couple years ago now, and our rates didn't spike at all. So it's nice that you can text your customers and provide some of those things, but does stability outweigh those text messages?
Representative, that is an excellent question, and I'm so glad you raised that issue. I will point out that NRG is headquartered in Houston, Texas, so we're very familiar with that market. Let me provide a couple of very important clarifications. Number one, unlike Michigan, Texas is not part of a regional market, right? I mean, I could poke a little fun at Texas. You know, Texas does what Texas does. It's the Texas way, right? They are an island, all right? And that's an important thing to understand. So Texas is distinct from Michigan. They are not part of a regional market. The other thing about Texas that you should understand is that what caused prices to spike in Texas was the generators were not able to generate sufficient power. So what happened in Texas essentially is you had power plants that were built essentially outside because of the warm weather in Texas. They've been going through a spree of 110-degree days. So when a winter storm came through, power plants that are in our climate are built indoors in buildings. Those were exposed to the elements, and they were not able to generate power. So the power spike that happened, or the price spike that happened in Texas, had nothing to do with companies that were delivering the electricity. It had to do with the generators. So the two are not the same. It's like a little bit like comparing apples and Oreo cookies. They're food, but it's not the same. The markets work differently. The generators were subject to elements that they were not prepared for, and Texas is taking the steps to correct those problems.
Okay. Any other questions? No? All right. Well, thank you so very much, Mr. Nickerson, for your presentation. We appreciate you being here today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. All right. Okay. So we have no absent members today. There will be no further business before the committee, and the committee is adjourned.